It was originally the prime of life, a time when I could have seized my own happiness and forged a glorious future filled with boundless possibilities. But precisely at this crucial crossroads, a single ill-fated decision of mine cost me everything I held dear and precious. She also tragically lost her right to become a mother. I vow I won't love anymore. Farewell to all of this at the tender age of 17, 17 years old, that magical age when love begins to timidly blossom and delicately take root in the heart. I met a man of 14 years my senior, one of the last men I should have known. Bio. He was a colleague of my mom, since I would occasionally venture to my mother's workplace, driven by either curiosity or a sense of connection. Encountering him became an almost inevitable occurrence. In the innocent and wide-eyed gaze of a 17-year-old girl, being older seemed to automatically carry an air of maturity, and maturity, in turn, exuded an undeniable allure. The magnetic aura he effortlessly emanated, the depths and mystery lurking in the look of his eyes, and the assured cadence of his voice, all were starkly different from the boys of my age at school. It seemed as if everything in this world was neatly within his grasp and control, and I was hopelessly and completely ensnared by this. This experience strangely reminded me of love starring Lun Ka-fai. Maybe deep down in my very core, I have always harbored a secret longing for romance, an irrepressible love for rebellion, and an insatiable thrill for the shock of the unconventional. Soon, we plunged headlong into a passionate love affair. When Mom and Dad discovered our forbidden liaison, they were hurled into a frenzy of rage and disbelief, especially Dad. How could he ever tolerate his young daughter's premature foray into romance and what he deemed as immoral behavior? So, in his desperate bid to halt this, he imprisoned me within the confines of our home and even resorted to the harsh measure of physical punishment by beating me. But I was blinded by the intensity of my emotions and wasn't the slightest bit intimidated. Love, I stubbornly believed, demanded a fierce fight and unwavering commitment. Didn't it? Isn't that how love is gloriously depicted in the enchanting fairy tales? Bio, in a show of bravery that I mistook for true love, boldly came to my house and secretly rescued me from my confinement. And that's how I ended up living with him in a reckless abandon of all reason and caution. I gave up on my studies with a carefree attitude, convinced that my love was the ultimate pursuit. In my naive and youthful mind, my love was an arduous battle won against all odds. It broke through the seemingly insurmountable barriers of my family's vehement opposition, and I sacrificed my once promising future without a second thought. Of course, I believed I cherished this forbidden love with all my heart and soul. It seemed to me that ever since I chose to follow him, I gave myself completely and unreservedly, disregarding all possible consequences. In this wild and unrestrained manner, love was an all-consuming inferno that threatened to incinerate everything to ashes. That's how incredibly naive and simple I was back then. Within the span of a tumultuous year, I endured the heartbreak of 2 miscarriages. The doctor's final and devastating diagnosis was like a thunderbolt that struck me to the very core of my being. I could no longer have children. This crushing news hit me like a colossal tidal wave. The diagnosis jolted me to the very depths of my soul. At that time, Bio's attitude towards me began to shift gradually and alarmingly. He grew increasingly cold and distant, as if the once burning passion between us had simply vanished into thin air. He seemed to have grown tired of me and paid no more than a cursory attention. Even when I endured the physical and emotional trauma of the miscarriages, he reacted with a callous indifference that felt like a knife twisting in my heart. I was left bewildered and heartbroken, constantly questioning why love could be so fragile and fleeting. It was a far cry from the idealized version I had naively envisioned in my dreams. There was no unwavering commitment, no promise of eternal love, and I, in my foolishness and youthful ignorance, had recklessly overdrawn my youth and innocence for this ill-fated love. I had sacrificed not only my precious innocence but also the most fundamental right of a woman, the ability to become a mother. I was no longer a complete and whole woman. During that tumultuous period, Bio was often away on business trips, leaving me alone to cope with the emotional tempest. There was no comforting phone call, no expression of concern, let alone the much-needed physical presence and emotional support. My heart, once filled with hope and love, gradually turned cold and desolate. In a state of utter confusion and despair, I made a desperate call to my mother. I can't recall the exact words that tumbled from my trembling lips. All I remember is the uncontrollable deluge of tears that streamed down my face. After putting down the phone, in a moment of utter darkness and hopelessness, I grabbed a handful of sleeping pills that I had secretly amassed and swallowed them all in one desperate gulp. It must have been some strange anomaly in my phone usage, or perhaps a mother's intuitive sixth sense that raised the alarm for my ever-vigilant mother. Mom rushed over in a frantic haste and managed to send me to the hospital while I was already slipping into a coma. Miraculously, I survived the harrowing ordeal, but my heart had died, and I despaired of everything that life had to offer. I no longer trusted the sincerity of others or believed in the existence of true and lasting emotions. After that near-death experience, I returned to the refuge of books and knowledge. I threw myself into the daily grind of work, trying my best to fill every waking moment. I took up clerical work during the day and transformed into an aerobics instructor in the evenings, hoping to find solace and purpose in the rhythm of physical activity. During precious breaks, I visited the children in the orphanage, seeking a glimmer of hope and warmth in their innocent smiles. But while engaging in all these activities, I remained trapped in a state of numbness and confusion, unable to truly find happiness or contentment. After leaving Bio, my inner world underwent a series of profound and disturbing metamorphoses. From the initial overwhelming waves of sadness and despair, I gradually descended into a state of numbing indifference. When I think of him now, it seems there is no longer the sharp pain or the searing hurt that once consumed me. Instead, only a simmering hatred remains. Bio, on the other hand, soon embarked on a new chapter of his life. He got married in a hurry and soon welcomed children into his world, basking in the comfort and stability of a conventional family life. Yes, it seemed he lost nothing in this cruel game of fate. But what about me? Aerobics instructors are often expected to maintain a fit and attractive physique, and I was no exception. As a result, I found myself the object of attention and pursuit from many men. I had firmly shut the door of my heart to the possibility of true love, but did not outright refuse the company and attention they offered. When I witnessed them falling hopelessly and deeply in love with me, I chose to walk away without a backward glance. Watching them left heartbroken brought a twisted sense of satisfaction and validation. Many people around me commented that I was cold-hearted and arrogantly aloof. In truth, only I knew the hidden truth behind this fault. I was incomplete and damaged on the inside, but had mastered the art of disguise and presenting a tough exterior to the world. I often used these encounters and incidents to deliberately provoke Bile, taking a perverse pleasure in seeing him at a loss for words or hanging up the phone in a flustered panic. Each time this happened, a fleeting sense of victory and pleasure would briefly flicker in my otherwise empty heart. But why was true happiness always so fleeting and elusive? Why did my heart remain an empty void despite these petty victories? Was I slowly but surely transforming into a completely soulless and bad woman? Last year, as if fate had one more twist in store for me, I met my current. He was deeply and irrevocably infatuated with me, to the point of near blind devotion. No matter how much I intentionally hurt him with my coldness and indifference, he always greeted me with a gentle smile and remained steadfastly by my side. I went to the bar to seek momentary escape and oblivion, and he waited patiently outside the door, regardless of the late hours and inclement weather. I fell ill, and he stayed by my bedside throughout the long and lonely nights, offering comfort and care. I went to teach aerobics, and he was there to pick me up, rain or shine, without a single complaint. Every festival, he would go out of his way to surprise me with the most thoughtful and elaborate gestures. He poured his entire heart and soul into me, leaving no stone unturned in his efforts to win my affection. I, on the other hand, regarded him with a mixture of pity and indifference, although I still felt no genuine spark of love for him. I couldn't bring myself to reject his sincere advances outright. We got along in a strange and uneasy dance of emotions, where words often remained unspoken and true feelings buried deep beneath the surface. And as time passed in this uneasy truce, the more I found myself unable to break the silence and reveal the truth. Mom and Dad, seeing the situation through rose-tinted glasses, assumed I was finally ready to settle down and embrace a stable life. After consulting with his parents, it was unanimously agreed that we would tie the knot and embark on the journey of marriage. Right at this moment, as the wedding plans began to take shape, I suddenly felt an overwhelming urge to run away and escape this impending commitment. I don't love him, but I am on the verge of marrying him. I carry within me a baggage of painful memories and a past scarred by heartbreak. But he knows nothing of this. He's like a trusting and innocent fool, walking blindly into a trap that he perceives as a paradise of love and happiness. At this critical juncture, I was suddenly seized by a profound confusion and self-doubt. I had acquired a house and a car, seemingly ticking all the material boxes for a comfortable life. But was I truly prepared mentally and emotionally? Was my heart ready to embrace a future built on a foundation of lies and half-truths? Perhaps I still needed precious time to reflect and come to terms with my true feelings. I knew deep down that a marriage without the bedrock of true love was a dangerous house of cards. It was like a castle built on shifting sands, vulnerable to collapse at the slightest gust of wind and vanishing into thin air at any moment. So, in a bid to find clarity and escape the mounting pressure, I chose to embark on a journey of self-discovery. I set off on a trip with a stranger who had little to do with the complex web of my life, in yet another display of his boundless tolerance and understanding, put me on the plane with a smile, telling me to enjoy myself and to stay safe along the way. Looking at his trusting and innocent face, I felt a pang of guilt that gnawed at my conscience. I no longer wanted to inflict pain on this kind soul who had done nothing but love me unconditionally, but the truth was, I had been hurting him all along with my indecision and internal conflicts. Now, as I make my way back home, the question looms large in my mind. Should I really go through with this marriage and tie the knot with a man I do not love with all my heart?